James Coy from Old School Wheel. Today we'd like to show everybody how to correctly measure the bolt pattern on a custom wheel, or on a vehicle for that matter. Today we'll be talking about 5-lug applications, or 5-lug wheels. Normally here at Old School Wheel we mainly work with 5-lug wheels, so in this case today we'll be talking strictly about 5-lug wheels. In order to measure a 5-lug wheel accurately and correctly, there's a couple things that we want to understand. We want to understand what is a bolt pattern and how it's made up, or what it's composed of. In this case, the bolt pattern is made up of 5 lug holes that are drilled in the center of a wheel. These 5 lug holes are spread out into different spreads. There's a lot of different lug bolt patterns, or lug patterns or bolt patterns that exist in 5-lug. Everything from 5 on 100 or 5 on 4 all the way up to the new 5 on 150. Also there's a lot of different bolt patterns in between there, but today we're going to talk strictly on how to measure those correctly. Now here we have a wheel that's face down that we're going to measure the bolt pattern on. It's going to be very simple, but real quick, on the wheel that's down here, that's face down, you will see that I've drawn with a black permanent marker a circle that goes through the middle of each lug hole. These lug holes are drilled on the center of that circle. Okay, so when we measure a bolt pattern, we want to know the first measurement, or the first number is, in this case, 5, because there's 5 lug holes drilled on this circle. The second measurement that we want to find is the diameter of the circle that runs through the middle of each lug hole. So if we could cut this circle directly in half, we would know the measurement of the second number in our bolt pattern. For example, this is a 5 on 4.5 wheel, a wheel that has a bolt pattern of 5 lugs on a 4.5 inch circle. Okay, so to measure that correctly, the way that we have to do it on a 5-lug wheel is we need to measure from the center of one circle of one lug hole, skip a lug hole to the center of a second lug hole. Okay, so we're not going to measure from center to center, we're actually going to measure from center, skipping a hole to center. Okay, so in doing that, we'll place our ruler or protractor here, our ruler, and what we're going to try to do, and it can be a little bit difficult, but we're going to try to line up that 0 right in the center of that first lug hole. Okay, then skipping a lug hole, we're going to go over to the next lug hole. Now when I place that in there real quick and I measure that lug pattern, from 0 it comes to 4 1/4 in this case. Now again, like I said, this is a 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. The reason being is that when we measure from center of one circle, from one stud hole to the center of the other stud hole, we are not cutting this circle completely in half. Okay, so on a 5-lug wheel we need to add 1/4 of an inch. So when I measure that and I come up with 5 lug holes with the 4 1/4 spread in between the 2 lug holes, I add 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so again, center of one stud to the center of the next stud and add 1/4 of an inch, and that's for 5-lug wheels only, or 5-lug vehicles only. Okay, so one more time, we'll just kind of quickly run through it. We have 5 lugs on a circle, and what we're trying to find out is the diameter of that circle. So we'll again place down our ruler in the center of that first circle and measure to the center of the following circle, and we come up with 4 1/4 inches. We add our 1/4 of an inch, and we have our bolt pattern of 5 lugs on a 4.5 spread. So that's how we accurately and correctly measure a bolt pattern. That can also be done on the vehicle. When you have the wheel off the car, you can measure from the center of one stud to the center of another stud, and when you do that, you add the 1/4 of an inch and you'll come up with your bolt pattern. To go through a couple examples, if you measure 4 1/4 inches, you add 1/4 of an inch, you'll be 4 1/2. If you measure 4 1/2, you add 1/4, you'll get 4 3/4. If you measure 4 3/4, you add 1/4, you get 5. So your Chevy trucks will be a 5-lug Chevy truck With a 4 3/4 spread, you add 1/4 inch and the bolt pattern is 5 on 5. Your Chevy cars, you'll measure it and it'll come out to 4.5 inches. You add 1/4 inch and the bolt pattern on a Chevy car is 5 on 4 3/4. And last, on Ford vehicles and Chrysler vehicles, Dodge and Mopars, when you measure the center of one stud to the center of another stud, you'll come up with 4 1/4 inch. You add 1/4 inch and you'll come up with 4.5 inches, which will give you the 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. So thank you for watching. That's how we accurately measure for the correct bolt pattern on both a wheel and vice versa on a car. We appreciate you coming to coyswheel.com, and we hope to help you in the future.